What's going on, everyone? This is Sean of Raw Select Music, and you are listening to the On Again, Off Again Raw Select Music podcast. My guest today is someone that I've wanted to interview for a while now. For the last 2 years or so, I've been a part of an online UK-based radio station called Blue and Green Radio. Since joining, I've been interviewed multiple times by the station's head honcho, Imran, there we go, Imran Mirza. I'm so sorry if I butchered your last name, man. But never gotten a chance to turn the tables and ask him a bunch of questions that I've always wanted to ask him. Finally, in May, I got the chance, and the result was a freewheeling, enthusiastic, and extremely enjoyable conversation about the humble beginnings of Blue and Green Radio, his start in radio in general, and a whole host of other music-related topics. I sincerely hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did, and afterwards you'll go out and check out his fantastic radio station. Links in the description as always, when this is all over. So with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so we are talking with the head of Blue and Green Radio, Mr. Imran. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very, very well, sir. Thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate you.
I know I've been meaning to have this conversation with you for, I think, over the course of a year or so now. And it's never worked out based on my previous work schedule. But currently, I have a lot more free time. And I thought I'd reach out to you because we've been working together for the last, 2 years now?
I think we might be up to that number, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting.
No, and it's been great working and talking with you. If you haven't been checking out the interviews that we've been doing over the last, again, 2 years or so, we've been having on and off exchanges through the podcast associated with the radio label or radio station, radio label. How would you refer
Station. Yeah. I'd say station. Yeah.
And from there, we've had conversations, but it's always been you interviewing me. And right. I wanted to flip the tables this time. And I actually wanted to interview you because at the end of the day, I've read through the website, blueandgreenradio.com. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Through blueandgreenradio.com, going through the website and blog and everything. But other than that, I don't really know that much about you. And I wanted to use this as an opportunity to, one, for me personally, actually get to know you a little bit better. And two, maybe introduce my audience to you as well. So yeah, thank you very much for taking your time, taking time out of your evening to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you you having me on. I have caught your everything that you do, really, from your YouTube reviews to your radio shows, of course, to your Four Corners contributions, to your new Facebook live streaming. That you're doing at an incredible pace as well. So as you know, I'm a huge fan of you and your of you and your brand and your podcast since episode 2 came out. Which has the elusive episode 1 seen the light of day? Have I missed that at all?
Episode 1 is still sitting on my hard drive, and I've given up on that. And the future of that podcast is the future of any podcast moving forward is still sort of up in the air, as my podcasting partner may or may not be available in the future. So, but we'll see how that goes with the podcast up until this point.
Oh, well, I hope you figure it out. It's yeah, and I mean, Zencast is a great way to connect you. Do you know what I mean? So you would connect you with anybody that you kind of would want to talk to. So yeah, I'd recommend you should definitely continue it.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to at some point continue the podcast on a more regular basis. It's just with everything that I've always done with Raw Select Music up until this point, it's always been on the whim of my motivation. So
Mm.
if I can motivate myself to do something, whether it's the live stream, the radio show, or the YouTube stuff, it's all based on having the being able to put forth the effort to get something done. And
But it's
usually,
interesting. It's
I,
interesting you say that though, because
mhm,
that's an extensive list of things.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? From a radio show to the podcast to the YouTube reviews to a podcast to now the Facebook live streaming stuff that you're doing. Those are a lot of things that, obviously they all contribute to the Raw Select brand, but they almost have to be done as and when you're, motivated to kind of jump straight into those things, isn't
Well, for me, guilt is always the strongest motivator. And the feeling of I've wasted an entire day and not done anything is
it?
usually the motivation that gets me moving to work on any given project.
Mm.
So, but I actually that segue, woo, that was a brilliant segue right there. I wanted to ask you, what was the impetus behind starting Blue and Green Radio in the first place?
Um.
Oh, okay, well,
Well.
let me take it back even further than that. When did
Okay.
Blue and
Okay.
Green Radio actually first start?
Well, Blue and Green Radio was, in essence, it was a radio show called Blue and Green Sessions, which I still do today. And I think it was like 2006 when I just sort of everything. Yeah, it was just kind of like I'd wanted to do radio. I think I mentioned in our previous conversations, it was like during my time at university is really when I just fell in love with music. And so a lot of people have that kind of connection with music from their childhood, like, oh, my parents would have all their vinyl out and they'd sift through Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. I didn't have any of that. And I grew up, my mum had two cassette tapes in the car. One was Lionel Richie Back to Front and the other was Krista Berg, Lady in Red. And that was that was my musical upbringing. So it was really the 90s when I kind of really fell in love with music, and it just got bigger and bigger and the passion for it kind of grew. And I used to fantasize about the idea of having a radio show. This is before internet radio was as prominent as it is now. And there was a station that was called Invincible Radio, and they had just I stumbled on it, and it said we're looking for presenters to do shows, and I, with no experience, nothing. I remember I put it off for ages, and
Mhm.
this is where the anxiety comes in. And I eventually called because there wasn't an email address, and I thought I can't blag this. I can't. I want to do this more than anything, but there's no blag. I can't talk my way into it. So I'll just be honest. And the guy said, "Great. Like, what background have you got?" And I just said, "Nothing. I've got nothing. I've never done anything. I don't play
Really?
out." Yeah, I just said I've got no experience. I have, I never played out. I don't do clubs. I'm not a DJ in that respect. I have no radio background at all. I just love this more than anything, and I want to give it a go. And the guy laughed and said, "All right, well, let's come in and have a chat." And he kind of liked that approach. And it was about 2006 when we started, and it was a Friday night, 1 a.m. till 3 a.m. slot in Hackney, which was a warehouse area that they had run their live radio from. So it was an hour drive there, and then an hour drive back. And it was, like I said, started at 1 a.m. on a Friday night, and it was dead. Like there was really very little people, very few people listening.
Hmm.
And I didn't care. I was just sort of doing it, and I was just over the moon. I just loved it. The fact
Were
I
you getting
just
paid
couldn't
for
care.
this?
No,
Oh,
internet radio.
sorry to ask
No.
such an absurd question.
Internet radio in this country, and
Mhm.
I've worked at 4 stations in the UK. You pay them because it can't function otherwise. because of all of
Really?
their rent and everything. Yeah, absolutely. And I've been at four, two fairly prominent internet stations, but you pay them and that's just a known thing. In I don't know if it's like across the world or anything like that, but like I said, I've been to four fairly prominent stations. Beg your pardon. I've been at four stations, two fairly prominent, and you have to pay because it just can't exist otherwise. They have advertising and stuff like that, but for the rent and the equipment and everything involved, it's the new pirate radio, really. And
That,
so yeah.
that was actually what I was going to ask you. I'm somewhat familiar, although not all that knowledgeable about it. I was going to ask you if this was a terrestrial radio station or if this was a pirate radio station.
Oh no, well, it's
Or
funny
did
because
it ride some
pirate.
sort of weird line between the two?
Well, yeah, because I think that pirate radio obviously was people broadcasting illegally, and in some cases, famously, they would broadcast at sea because there was no regulation. You could hide better and everything like that. With the dawn of internet radio, it is a case of you can be legal or illegal, but how do you regulate the amount of internet stations that there are? That's
Right.
the problem.
Yeah.
So for us, for Blue and Green Radio, I'm very proud to say we're fully legal. We pay our PRS and PPL licenses every year because the idea of what this whole thing is about, it has to be legit. It has to be a genuine contribution to the industry. That's exactly what it was about, supporting independent artists, etc., etc. So we're fully legit, but no other station I've been at before ever was, I don't believe. So it's pirate in that it's not legal, but it's not pirate as in like an FM broadcast or like a over the airwaves kind of thing. It's just through the internet, but how do you regulate that? So
Yeah.
yeah. So I did that for ages, and I kind of been. Oh, sorry, I can go on a bit, so I'll do my
Oh,
best to
please
be a bit
continue.
more
This is
concise.
great. This is
It's
precisely the kind of conversation that I was hoping for.
Oh, that's really kind. Thanks. Well, I guess with that station, like I said, you're paying for the thing. You're driving an hour to get there. It's 1 till 3 in the morning, and this was like a warehouse in Hackney. So it was a really small room with like like the slanty roof that kind of comes down. So you don't really have use of the whole room because you'll hit your head because
Ah,
it's
right,
kind of
right,
like,
right. Yeah,
do you
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's a really small box room, and I remember they had there would be mice in the warehouse that
Oh,
I'm broadcasting. So I'm not good with animals at all, but to be on live
how good are
radio,
you with spiders?
I'm actually quite bad, and I don't usually kill them unless it's really like I'm not, it's coming for me. Like then I'll get the Hoover out, but most cases it's like a half an hour stare down with a spider, and then I'll get the glass and put it on top and then scoop it out and chuck him out into outside. Yeah, that's what I
very
try and
kind
do.
of you.
Yeah, there's that Zen Buddhist thing we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So it would be a case of I'm doing a link on live radio, and there are mice literally running behind me, like scurrying behind me, and it was just funny, Like I've kind of done it all. Like I did this for years. I did it there and various other stations, and with each station that I'd been at, I always inadvertently got kind of labeled as the alternative one, and I don't mean that always in a good way. Some people would say it in a very flattering way, like, "Wow, you play stuff that other people on the station aren't playing," but then other people would say, "I don't listen to that show because he's playing stuff I don't really want to hear." And
Well,
it's
even
well,
oh, sorry.
no,
Even
go ahead,
early on in your radio career, were you always playing the kind of music that I would associate with the Blue and Green radio show or the Blue and Green sessions? at this point? Were you still
Largely, yeah. I was more into, because this was sort of early 2000s, like 2006, I think it was. So I was more into sort of more contemporary, like R&B and hip hop as well. But at the same point, I would still play Roy Hargrove and Soul Live on shows. But it's such a funny thing because, like, that first station, for example, they were very focused in their target audience. It was a contemporary R&B and hip hop station, and I'm coming along with a show that I've never done before. I've never, it takes years, I think, to find your voice on
Oh,
radio, and that's
definitely.
how and your voice is about how you talk and also what you play. You have to figure out who you want to be, and I thought I knew, but I was actually very, very wrong. And I have old shows that are just horrendous, really, really horrible, kind of, to listen back, because you don't know who you're trying to be a lot of the time, and the music's all over the place. And I totally acknowledge it just takes quite a long time, or it can take a long time, to really know what you want to put out there, or be
When
to be
you
the
when you jumped into the radio show scene, were you did you know what you wanted to put out there, or were you
Well, yeah, I
still
thought I
falling out
did.
of the dark?
I thought I did, but I think
I
you
see.
have to. I was always taken by that late night jazz kind of presenter where you're talking about what you're playing, and I think sometimes, nerves and that level of anxiety, which I've referenced, and I probably will do several more times in this conversation,
I'm right there with you.
that you definitely don't hit me as someone that sort of succumbs to that. That's
Oh,
quite
I just
surprising that
hide
you've
it
said that as
very,
well.
very well.
Wow.
So
Well, you do.
you've never seen me in person, but like there's usually whenever I'm doing like the Raw Select radio show or something along the line, if the sweat isn't dripping from my forehead, it's usually running right down my back. You
Wow.
can think of a live stream that I did recently that actually ended up doing really, really well on Facebook. And it was something that I didn't really plan out ahead of time. And the entire time I was doing it, my hands were shaking.
Wow.
My heart was racing, and I felt like this should train wreck, and it should train wreck at any given moment. And it
Mm.
never did. But I think sometimes the anxiety can actually be kind of a motivating factor because it just keeps you right on that edge of completely losing it, but also anxiety can also be kind of an exciting factor at the same time too. Does that make any sense?
It does. I don't agree with it for me, though. Like, I totally understand what you mean, but the anxiety for me is something to, like, some people always say you embrace something like that and you have to use it and work with it, which I guess is kind of what you're saying. But for me, it's something to overcome, and it's something that severely holds me back a
Mm.
lot. But I think that the sort of the conversation of anxiety I find fascinating, I think, for both of us, because it's just the mindset of, well, why do we do it then? Because, like, for me, radio now, because I still do live radio through another station on a fortnightly, every 2 weeks I do a live slot. And
Oh,
when I
okay.
do like a blue and green, when I'm on record something for blue and green radio, for both of those things, so I do live radio as well. But
Oh,
I'm
really?
actually at a point now. I am when it's me alone with my show, it is the single most comfortable thing in the world. Like, there isn't any environment that I'm in where I'm more comfortable than when I'm broadcasting. But my current anxiety is talking to people, because that's not what live radio is. You in a room alone doing your thing.
Yeah.
But, like, so with the podcasts, last year was a very difficult year because I've never spoken to people, and I don't know that compulsion to create those podcasts primarily to talk to people like you. And it was the presenters that were a part of it. And I wanted to talk to Molly, and I wanted to talk to Rhonda and Vahe, and I wanted to, everyone who contributes. And it was a vehicle for me to communicate to all of with the presenters. And it extended to include artists, which was fantastic. But the level of anxiety before a podcast recording, sometimes I want to cancel it. Sometimes I want to message and say I'm ill or something, because it's too much. I've never done that, but it can get to that level. But we've spoken loads of times, so I'm at a point with you and Vahe, for example, and Rhonda, where I look forward to it, because I know that I can just talk to you. We have a lot of similar interests, and we can just go for a really long time. And and I get to the point with you, Rhonda, Vahe, Molly. I embrace it. But if it's someone new, it's almost too much.
I was actually one, I want to put a pin in that, because I do want to come back to it
right.
in a little bit, talking about your recent interviews with the Blue and Green Radio podcast. You've been talking to a lot of artists recently. I want to get into that, but I want to get into that a little bit later.
Sure. Yeah.
But, first thing I wanted to mention is I am 100% with you there. So my anxiety kind of works in two ways, and I wonder if you can kind of relate to this. So there's the anxiety that keeps you from doing something, where you get overwhelmed by the idea of recording a podcast or conversation with someone. So you just constantly procrastinate on it, and you don't end up doing it. So I think you and I have a sort of similar anxiety with that. It's the sort of thing that's kept me from extending an offer to do an interview with a whole host of other people that I've wanted to talk to, but just won't get to, largely because I get overwhelmed and just ultimately end up shutting down when it comes to doing something like that.
Yeah.
And then the other was going back to the sort of live stream or DJing out at events. The anxiety with that, I find, is once I'm in the middle of something, that anxiety becomes a motivating factor. It sort of gets me excited and gets me interested.
Right.
So there's the preventative anxiety, the one that keeps you from doing stuff. And then there's the, holy shit, I'm right now in the middle of this insane situation and I am forced to sink or swim.
Right.
Which I think is probably, excuse me, the feeling that I was thinking when I hosted the Tall Black Guy event.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I was anxious all the way up until the event finished. But once the ball has already started rolling, you keep it moving. But that anxiety actually becomes something of a high at some point, where there's a positive feeling. There's a positive feeling that I would associate with it, where it's well, we got to keep moving. We got to keep doing something. We got to make sure that it's the sinking ship, where every time you fix one hole that's causing a leak, there's another hole on another side of another side on the ship, and you have to run over and plug it, and you're constantly just doing it until you're back on land. Yeah. And that was a horrendous metaphor, wasn't it?
No. It's absolutely it's a perfect one, because it's about, you are saying sink or swim, and what are you going to do in these moments? Do you just say, oh well, it hasn't worked, and fold and leave, or do you continue fighting? You continue fighting, and get through what you've committed to getting through. And I know it's a perfect one, but I kind of feel like that's something that there's a couple of things that you've sort of mentioned that have come to fascinate me at the moment. And I guess through the podcast, not to go back there, but I kind of want to explore that in people, what makes you, or what makes you, me, and other people like on the team, like what makes you persevere? Because there's an element of that anxiety, like say that you and I have, and I don't have that level of I'm going to embrace this. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, for me, it's a case of I can't quit, because this is, like I said, like radio for me is just it's the one thing that just sort of makes sense for me, and the idea of what a radio show can be, and it being a narrative, and it just being blissful to celebrate music that you love. But you balance it out and you think, like with live radio years ago when I started it, and the level of anxiety before that, and now to actually have to communicate to people and you put yourself out there and stuff. So it's kind of like, but why keep going? And it's kind of that quality in people that I'm kind of becoming quite fascinated with. And also that kind of, I remember talking to Vahe, I think it was the first time we on our podcast, the first or second time, and he talked about doing something like he puts out a lot of stuff like online through SoundCloud and things, and he talked
The
about the idea of like something of like, oh, I don't care. He sort of flippantly said it in a jokey way, but he sort of said, I don't care if no one likes it. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of, and that kind of fascinates me in terms of, if he puts it out and no one likes it or even listens to it, he fascinates me because he shrugs his shoulders off at that. And it's kind of like, well, I don't care. I'm just going to do the next one now, and whatever that is. And that as a quality in people just fascinates me. Molly was putting out her Super Sonido show for nearly 2 years. She was doing 2 1-hour shows a month on her SoundCloud with no radio station. She was in there. She was recording it and putting it out there for over 2 years. And then I found her, and we had a conversation, and here we are. She, thank God she's a part of our team, and it's just that quality of, I don't care if no one's listening to this. This is in me, and I have to get it out. And I think that's kind of what Blue and Green Radio is built on. That kind of, again, sorry, I'm being a bit very scatty, but
no, no,
like
no,
I
no,
said
no.
before.
It's mentally amusing to me.
Okay. But like I said before about in stations, I'd always been the alternative one. That's not a tag. I sort of say like, yeah, I was the cool alternative one. Like I said, some people said it in a good way, some people said it in a bad way. And it was always the case of, when you're at a station, yes, it's your time, your 2-hour slot or whatever, but it's not, but it's someone else's station, and people tune into a station for a certain thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I can stick to my guns and say, I'm going to do what I want to do. But if people aren't enjoying it, I'm not really doing my job right. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of what Blue and Green Radio is about. It was, for me, I refer to it as home, because I get to do personally what I want to do. And I love that it can be the goal is that it's a place that other people can do what they want to do. Do you know what I mean? You can tell a story. I honestly, that's my thought process of a good radio show is, it is a narrative. It is a narrative. It's not someone playing just records for 2 hours to get through that time slot.
right.
It has to be a narrative. And I think whether people are conscious of it or not, that is what it is. And I just think people that can make that connection with their show, that's kind of what the station is very much about. And I think we're incredibly lucky to have that hub, and just the immeasurable talent on there, including I said, Molly and Vahe. It's just it's a dream kind of scenario at the moment. And shout out as well to Colin from Twisted Soul. I haven't mentioned him, how rude of me. And Steve from UK Vibe. It's an incredible collection of people, and there's a great level of experience. Some people who really shouldn't be on our thing, with the level of experience that they have, it's incredible. And then there's people that are like, yeah, I can do this, I'm going to give it a go. And it's like, yes, do that, have fun with it, take a time slot and express yourself in however it is you want to do that. and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes you learn and you go with it, Does that make sense? That was all over the place.
No. I 100% agree with that. I mean, the whole basis of Raw Select Radio in the first place was just wanting to try to do something like that. I, as I mentioned in the first one, was listening to a podcast. Someone said, if you want to start a podcast, the best thing that you can do is just do it. And I think that has been my philosophy for a lot of the things that I've started, whether it be the blog, the YouTube channel, now the live streaming, stuff like that, has always just been about, if you have the slightest inclination to want to try something, whether or not you have the knowledge to do it properly, you should always at least try. It is always better to have tried than to not.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it took me a long time to get to that point, but I totally would rather fail at something I've tried as opposed to always wonder in never having done it. I'd rather regret the things I did as opposed to the things I didn't.
Absolutely. 100%. 100% agree with that. If it wasn't 9 o'clock in the morning, I would say I'd drink to that. But I'm not. I try my best not to be a day drinker. Not always successful, but
well, I suppose quarantine life might be making it harder. I don't know.
Not really. I lust for the taste of coffee during the day.
Oh yeah.
Like I am literally almost a pot of coffee a day drinker.
Wow, lovely.
Yeah, it's great. So I wanted to ask you, so then from working with radio stations, did you make the jump immediately to the Blue and Green radio station, or was there something in between that?
Well, no. Blue and Green Radio has only been going for just over 3 years, 3.5 years. So I've been doing internet radio for for a fairly long time, about 10 years, 11 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
Before I did it. So I think it was just got to a point where I was sort of trying to find stations, and like I'm at a station now. It's a really great station called Stomp Radio, and I do that every 2 weeks. It's a live slot on a Tuesday night. But I think it was the fact that the only thing that they had available was like a every 2 week slot. They didn't have like a weekly slot. And then it bugged me because I thought I didn't have ownership. I couldn't even say that the time slot was mine. Do you know what I mean? Because how do you pitch a fortnightly slot? How do you tell people I'm on every 2 weeks? Are you on this week? No, I'm on next week. And then 2 weeks. I just didn't feel I had ownership. And I think this kind of tag of the alternative one, I just got tired of always having to kind of compromise like a show. And if I have something and I'm like, this is amazing, I desperately want to play this and talk about this, you kind of think, well, this isn't this station, for example, whichever station, not saying the Stomp one, you kind of think this isn't really the avenue for it. But on the station before Stomp, I won't name it, but I was on there for a few years, and there was a guy after me who he still is. He's a real hero of mine, and we would just have such a cool time where he was on after my time slot, so we would hang out for half an hour, sort of in between. And he was like really popular. He had lots and lots of friends, and lots of people tuned into him. He was really, really great. And I got to a point where I looked at the station schedule, and I had seen that he was getting 3 replays of his show a week. And that's great. Like he's brilliant. He's one of the best. He really is. But I wasn't getting any replays. And I remember I asked like the boss, and it's like in a very polite way. And I just sort of said, are you happy with the show? Am I doing anything good, or am I doing anything bad? Is there anything you want me to change, or anything you're not happy with? Because it's his station, and I am accountable to him. And it wasn't in like a, why aren't I getting any replays? Because I thought I'm must be doing something wrong. So I asked him, and then he instantly he paused, and I thought, oh, he has an answer. Like, that's interesting. That's would be good. And then he said, I think it would be better if you played things more in line with the other presenters. And I thought, okay. And I went, yeah, totally. Like, it's his station, and I fully embrace that as criticism or
but
constructive.
I can empathize with hearing an answer like that, because that's just sort of one of those things that it's like, I guess my instincts aren't as aren't as good as I thought they were. I thought this was what people wanted, but apparently I was going in a completely different direction.
It's exactly right. It's literally like someone tuning in to an episode of Raw Select. Mm-hmm. And if you just went straight heavy metal, etc., and that I wasn't doing that, obviously, but then people would say, well, that's not really why I clicked play. Do you know what I mean? It's not why I tuned in to Raw Select, because they expect a certain thing, and that's the interesting thing. And and I totally embraced it, and I changed what I was doing to accommodate the station. And subsequently I got a better reaction. And I didn't play anything I didn't want to play. It was stuff I had and loved and owned and purchased and bought, but you had to
play something within the
exactly
time that you were on the radio, rather than being able to go in any direction that you wanted to at any given moment.
Exactly. It's exactly that. And there's nothing wrong. There's no bitterness or anything as to what the guy said, because that's a learning thing for me. Mm-hmm. Because you can't just say that can't be the thing about it's my time and I'm going to play what I want to play, because you're hurting yourself, because people that tune in to that station expect one thing.
Yeah.
And if you can't give that, that's on you. You probably shouldn't be there. That's kind of the thing. So I think I didn't feel like I had anywhere to just do what I wanted to do with creatively with a show. And I just like the idea of radio. I've used the term of it being a narrative, but I've done loads of different types of shows. And in terms of, I like to do a show where I'll pick a musician, a saxophonist or a drummer, a trumpeter, and do a whole hour on that person. But stuff that they've done for other artists. Do you know what I mean? Stuff that Keon Harold as a trumpeter has appeared on for other artists, not his own music. Do you know what I mean? And it's just that kind of weird, goofy kind of thing. Vahe will do a 9-hour show.
Well, I don't think anyone is capable of doing the level of even approaching the level of depth that madman is capable.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing. I can't tell you another station that would accommodate that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's genius. I think Vahe's hilarious.
Because we aspire to be able to go that in depth on any artist, and I don't think even I could do that.
You probably could. I mean, I think it sort of depends. It's one of those things where you probably have more than you realize. Do you know what I mean? I think once you start going through all your credits and like Discogs, and you're like, oh, so and so did that, So it's incredible what he does, and that's why I adore the station in that. Yeah, okay, do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's incredible that he did he can sort of deep dive. We initially talked about doing a show, and he said initially the plan was he was going to do a 2-hour show every 2 weeks. And then the first show, he said, oh, I've gone over. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes. And I said, yeah, that's fine. And then the next show in 2 weeks' time, he said, I've gone over. I says, how long is it? It's 5 hours and 8 minutes. And it was a 5-hour, 8-minute show on Maxwell, and he hasn't played a single album track. Can you believe that?
Oh,
that's insane.
Wild.
That's insane, but that's
absolutely wild.
That's insane. It's remixes, it's live tracks, it's B-sides. It's, where are you getting this? I don't even know where he finds this stuff. He plunders the darkest corners of the web, and he just unearths things that I don't think that even Maxwell knows exists. It's just amazing what he can, it's just incredible.
Just
And I love that as a
stalker
station.
levels of knowledge right there.
But that's kind of what it is. It's just that kind of having that creative freedom to just do that, to just tell a narrative. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't find anywhere that was allowing me, obviously, to do that and to take those, not risks, I wouldn't say risks, but those that to create in that context. So here we are. That's why it exists.
So, okay, let me see if I can get my timeline right. So you end up moving away from doing one internet radio station, decide that you want to start your own radio station. You said 3 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, three and a half. Yeah, now I guess 3.5 years ago we've been doing.
Now, did you
radio.
just start that up by yourself? Was there anyone else involved at
no,
the
it's
time?
it's just me. I have a 9 to 5 job and 2 kids, but when they all go to bed, I'm up until very late.
So pretty much, very much like the rest of us. Then we all do
exactly
sort of a side thing.
Yes,
that, keeps us all sane at the end of the day.
Yes,
it's one of those.
Or
things.
keeps us all insane at the end of the day, depending on your perspective.
That too. but
yeah.
I was well. That was actually one of the things that I was curious about, was whether or not you held a 9 to 5 as well as doing this.
Yeah, so. Still do that. Yeah. So again, the station I have been offered advertising, but I've turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
So it just because it's just not what it's for. It was there's never been. I mean, I suppose I'd put it up there in terms of the winning the lottery, in terms of to be able to do this full time. Great, but I don't think we're quite. So there's no structure in place for that to sort of happen yet. So
have you thought about crowdsourcing it at all? Have you thought about moving towards like Patreon or PayPal donations or anything like that?
No, I just no, I've never really considered. I just kind of think from I just think radio is something it's a service you provide.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I think I just want it to be there for people to press play and enjoy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to
get that.
Yeah, I don't. The idea of, I mean, I've not, I've happily contributed to loads of crowdfunding stuff. They're great. I think it's amazing for like when you can contribute to an album being made. It's awesome. I'm hugely in favor of those in general, but I couldn't sort of ask in that context or put like a burden of responsibility on someone or feel that they have to in any way. I just think radio is a service you provide to people, and the only thing I could hope is that people will press play because it's they'll trust what comes out of it, when they do that. So yeah, no, I wouldn't have go with the crowdsourcing route. No.
Well, just out of curiosity, then, how much are you checking the metrics of the traffic of the website and the radio station?
I don't. I check. Actually, that's not true. I check 4 times a year because I have to do the reports for the PRS and PPL reports.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only time I check. I don't check anything other than that because you just don't want to do that to yourself.
Oh no, it's absolutely horrendous because you will experience your highest highs and lowest lows.
Exactly.
When you look at the metrics on any sort of media that you're putting it out there. It's really unhealthy in just the sense that you can quickly take away the reason why you're doing it in the first place.
Exactly, but the thing that it would hit me harder is that I know this won't be something I stop.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I would continue, for example, worst case, you look and you're like, oh no. I mean, I know obviously it does go up every quarter. I can tell you that much. It does go up every quarter, and that's great. That's brilliant. But to check, like if I do a show that I'm really proud of, and then I check and I'm like, oh no, this is not going well, for example, it just means you continue, but it's that cloud, that gray cloud over you through everything that you do going forward, because it's going to inform your mood going forward, but it won't make you quit. So it
Yeah.
means you continue unhappily. So back to the anxiety again.
Yep.
So it's
Hello.
so it's just I think it's what you said about you don't want to lose the connection to why you're doing it, and you do it because you love it. So, and if we don't look, then there's the hope that people are enjoying it and appreciating it, and you just go with that. That's all you can really do for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want to be so oblivious to what's going on that you 100% don't look at your level of interaction with your audience.
Right.
And at the same time, you don't want it to affect what you're doing either. So, like, a good example is looking at, for me personally, is looking at whatever numbers a YouTube video is doing, and whatever numbers a Raw Select radio show is doing on Mixcloud can quickly be a motivating and a disheartening factor both at the same time.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like you've said before, it's just something that you feel you have to do at the end of the day. And you'd probably still be doing it if there were 100 people listening or if there's absolutely nobody listening. Yeah. It just makes you feel a little bit better knowing at the end of the day that someone at the on the other end is connecting with whatever you're doing.
Yes, precisely that. It's exactly that. So, I mean, is there, like, for yourself, do you ever foresee like sort of a situation where you would just say, forget it, I'm not doing this anymore? Do you know what I mean? Where as a response to, I don't know, lack of connection with people or negative responses or feedback, is there something that would make you just say, okay, like I'm defeated, I'm done now?
The only thing that I felt on and off as of late is actually playing out, going out and doing events and stuff like that. I mean, granted, that's not really an option right now, but I've felt moments where I've had sets that were just absolutely miserable, and it seemed like nobody enjoyed what I was doing. It's when it's behind a computer screen, when you're doing it in your own room, it's really easy to just keep it very pure. There's no there's no demotivating force that's pushing back on whatever you're doing. Yeah. So part of the toying with the anxiety, which is becoming the running theme of this episode, is when playing out live. I mean, half the anxiety is, are people going to stay? Are people going to go? Are they leaving as a result of my set? Are they leaving just because of a million other factors? I'm quite neurotic in this way. So playing out live can sometimes be more stress than it is fun. And if anything, I would probably ditch that. But in terms of the radio shows and the doing the radio shows and the live stream, no, I'll probably keep doing this because at the end of the day, it's fun and therapeutic for me. I do this mostly for me at the end of the day. So I
playing live though is really interesting because, like, the places that you play and the type of music you play, you're playing to genuine hip hop heads.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I think because of that, you're putting yourself, I think, as like on the same almost level of like a stand-up comedian. Do you know what I mean? You're that level of attention where it's like, if this doesn't work, the response is very, very clear.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I think, I honestly, like I said, I've never played out. I've never performed in that context, and it petrifies me. Just the idea of it, in the same way that standing on a stage with a microphone as a stand-up would petrify me, because it's you. And if the jokes don't work, you see the response or you don't hear the response. And I think if you go up there and you come up with the selection that's going to make people roll their eyes, or you're not mixing to the standard that the other people on the bill have been mixing, then the results are there. You're like, why aren't people dancing? What's wrong?
Yeah, there's numerous factors to it, and I think at an early age I was more fearless when it came to confronting my anxiety with playing out. I was far more, maybe even arrogant might have been a word for it. But now that I've gotten older, there's a certain aspect of playing out, doing the events and stuff that I have sort of a love-hate relationship with it. The love part definitely comes from a really good night, and they're still there. But the hate relationship is when I've had like a really, really sour night. And there are moments where I've quit events, or I've finished an event rather than quit it, where I was just like, that was absolutely miserable. Why do I still do this? I'd rather be at home with my record collection doing a radio show, or now with the live stream stuff. So it just kind of comes and goes. Occasionally I really, really enjoy it, and then other times I absolutely loathe it. But I think that's just the nature of the beast of playing in the public square, so to speak, like that.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that I'm the only person who's ever had this thought.
No, but I imagine, like, I can't even know what that... You feel like a rock star, wouldn't you? To just be there like, yes, I can't wait to do this, to go there, get it right every time, and to feel that response, and you think, yep, that worked like I knew it would.
Yes.
Like, what an incredible kind of feeling that would be. Like, to just have the complete confidence in what you're about to do, and just have nothing more than enjoyment for it. That would be bliss.
Yes, I'd love to have that level of confidence.
But you have had huge successes on playing out live, like the
I've had
TBG event that you've mentioned already as well.
It's always been very, very rarely, as of late, I would say I haven't had a set where people actively hated what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I've gotten ambivalence, not ambivalence, but rather apathy towards my sets. But haven't had an instance lately where people were like getting mad at me, which I have dealt with before. And I think we talked about this.
So you changed, yeah.
Well, one, I stopped DJing for foreign crowds. That was the number one thing. I think it is sort of universally known, especially in DJ culture, that Americans can be the absolute hardest people to please. But I mean, that's a tangent that we'll probably have to save for another time. Which, speaking of which, are you still okay on time? I know it's getting
kind of absolutely. You. No, I'm groovy. No, it's cool. Yeah, let's go.
There are two more main questions that I wanted to hit in this show.
Sure.
The first thing. Well, actually, no. Scratch that. I have three more questions that I wanted to hit you with. Awesome. The first one was the connection with UK Vibe. I've been seeing a lot of sort of back and forth between you guys,
right? Yeah,
on Facebook, and I was wondering what was the connection with that.
Steve from UK Vibe. He's incredible. Like I don't know where we'd be sort of without him in many respects. I don't know how it started. I stumbled on his website. His website has been going, and I feel like it's incredibly rude of me to have said I just stumbled on it like a couple of years ago. But his website's been going for like 25 years. Because
I know, even before we started talking, I knew that I had seen,
cool,
at least heard of UK Vibe.
Yeah, it used to be a print magazine when they initially started.
Mm.
I don't know how. I think it went for a few years before he moved it to online, and there has been a record label attached to the UK Vibe brand as well. But it's basically an incredible hub for UK, well, not UK, excuse me, for contemporary jazz reviews and reissues, and everyone gets in contact with him for to have their stuff reviewed because it's become such an incredible brand. We made contact, and we're incredibly lucky to have Steve as part of the lineup. He does a 3-hour jazz set for us each week. And on a Thursday night, and it's incredible. He goes sort of every corner of contemporary jazz that there is, and it's just amazing. It's a fantastic set, and it basically like a year ago, I was asked to sort of join his writing team as well. So I write for him. I do like a review a week for UK Vibe as well. So it's a two-way kind of dynamic at the moment, and it's brilliant. He's amazing. A genuine kind of a unrivaled level of experience that he has. He's got he's very direct as well as Steve. It's quite. I like his approach to things. He doesn't really mince his words.
Oh, cool.
About certain things. So I'm the opposite. I'm incredibly eager to please. And I'll try my best to do anything I can to it for anyone. But and I'm not saying Steve isn't. No, I didn't mean that in a negative way. But if Steve has something to say,
nobody took it that way, I'm sure.
Yeah, cool. But it's just like if Steve has something to say, he'll be like, "Well, no, he's far more direct and honest, and that's exactly what it is. He's not rude in any way. He's honest,
just very straightforward."
Absolutely, and he's awesome. I don't know where we'd be without him, to be honest.
So how many members strong is the Blue and Green radio team at this point?
Wow, I don't know. It's probably 10, 11, 12. Probably a lot of people do a couple of different shows as well. So a lot of people will kind of jump in for other shows, which is awesome. And then there's Four Corners, which brings a good bunch of us together for just a wonderful, wonderful show. Steve's been a part of several of those as well. Actually, I think he quite likes them as well. So it's a good contingent. And the thing about it that I'm probably the most excited about is where everyone is located. There's about 3-4 of us in London.
Yeah.
There's 2 people one's in Canberra, Australia. One's in Melbourne, Australia. We've got Molly in Denver, Colorado. Rhonda in San Jose, California, yourself in Niigata, Japan. It's just, I always say the world is incredibly small from behind a computer screen. And it's just amazing how everyone from all these different countries and with all these experiences that they can kind of come together for this one thing. It blows my mind, really. Yeah,
the Four Corners segment has become one of my favorite parts of Blue and Green Radio because
wonderful, that's cool.
I love hearing how everybody can take one sort of ambiguous theme and spin it a million different ways.
Yeah,
the exactly. One it's so frustrating though at the same time whenever I contribute to it. I know Vahi's gonna put something out that just he ever since he started doing it and I listened to his first contribution, I was just like, amazing. This is the barat, and this is the yardstick that I'm going to have to use in order
totally.
So the first one, even up until now, I'm constantly intimidated because it's like even if I walk away from recording what I think is that was an halfway decent Four Corners contribution, then I'll hear his contribution. I'm like, man, I'm just never going to achieve that level of
he's
awesomeness.
He's a genuine genius. He's a genuine genius. And I remember, like, I remember when we started, I said to him, like, the one rule is you can't give a 5-hour contribution. So you've got to you've got to stick to 30 minutes, right? And he took that in the humor it was, but I never expected him to do what he does. Like, he talks for about 4 or 5 minutes in the beginning and then just plays his selections. But I mean, as an intro, like, we never talked about him kicking off every episode. It was never talked about. I actually thought I would kick it off just to set up what was happening.
Yeah.
Over the course of the 2 hours. I thought everybody will introduce their segment and I'll just briefly, I'll do my 30 minutes. But in the beginning of that, I'll say, this is a show where we take a one-word theme like time, fear, joy, etc. And we, 4 people explore that one word through music from different parts of the world. And I thought, as a summation, that's just something I would say in the beginning. But then Vahe sent in this incredible monologue for the first episode, and I thought, well, no one can go before that.
Yeah,
and I don't know how anyone's going to go after that.
Where are you going to insert that into the 4
exactly
different segments?
So he kicks off every episode as a thing. It's just magic how he writes it. It's just, he's incredible.
He just wants to be the center of attention, that's all.
Yeah, a-hole. He does it so well.
Yeah, no, he's too good at that. I really wish I could aspire to be that eloquent in not only the radio shows or the YouTube videos, but just in my daily life.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing, because I think you need to look at how you do what you do, because we're both comparing ourselves to what Vahe does, but then now you're kind of conversely, you're belittling what you bring to the table in your context. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think you can look past that. I know, like Rhonda, we have extensive conversations where I'm trying to get her to talk and she can't do it. She hates it. She hates talking. We've recorded like 12 podcasts in the last year, where she's happy to have this conversation, but when it comes to talking alongside music, she just
she hates doing it.
She hates it. It's not her approach to it. But now I listen to how you do yours, and I know with anxiety, whatever you're feeling aside, you come off like someone who is enjoying their time. If it's a 30-minute set for 4 corners or a 2-hour raw select, you speak, it comes across very confidently. You're playing a vast selection of music and you're talking freely, openly, confidently about what you're playing. And I think what you do and how you present your raw select, your show or 4 corners or whatever it is, there's an incredible comfort in these that you present and that you bring to the table that I know other people will listen to and say, oh, how's he doing that? How is he comfortable enough to do that? So I know we're talking about Vahe and we're putting him on that pedestal, but you're there too, dude. You're there too.
Oh man, I appreciate that. I'm gonna get a little misty-eyed right there. No, I am still, at the end of the day, very happy with what I'm doing. It's always just a feeling of you never want to get too comfortable, because you should always strive to be better than you were the last time that you did it. So I never...
Absolutely.
The number one thing for any of the things that I'm doing, YouTube, live streaming, radio shows, events, is I hate feeling like I'm in a rut. And it actually goes it actually ties in perfectly with part of the reason that I'm getting increasingly less enthusiastic about doing a lot of the shows live in Niigata, is that they are becoming largely routine. And that has taken a lot of the enjoyment out of it.
Right.
So I'm always.
But what makes it routine to play out live? Like you're playing the same stuff or the same crowds? What is it?
The same crowds. Niigata, just in general. I mean, we have dedicated pockets of wonderful DJs, wonderful audiences, wonderful venues all over the place. But it's very easy for, I think, people to just sort of fall into their own little groups, and everything just becomes just going through the motions. And I think that aspect of it kind of wears on me every now and then. But odds are what's going to happen with everyone not having done events for the longest time. I think the last set of events were like in March. As soon as restrictions and lockdown starts to become a little less restrictive. Ooh, good job on the vocabulary there, Sean. Yeah, I think you're going to see a burst of energy again. I think you're going to see a lot more people excited to be out and wanting to play again. Just, you know, you don't know what you've got until it's gone sort of feeling.
Yeah.
So, and I'm looking forward to that. And speaking of which,
how does your sorry, one more question about that. Like, how does the Facebook Live stuff? How does that compare? Because you don't have the immediate reaction of a crowd in front of you, but you've got people messaging you in that moment of playing, even though you're in your own home, and you can see how many people you see. I guess then if you look at the stats or what it tells you about how many people have tuned in or anything like that, but that's kind of does that reinvigorate the idea of performing live again for you?
To some degree, when I first started doing the live streaming stuff, I was just honestly playing around and seeing what would happen. And then as I started seeing people were actually paying attention to it, and I would actually retain people, I started realizing that I had to approach it a little bit differently. Because I think the original thought that I had in my head was to kind of approach it the same way that I would record a radio show, the only difference being is people were seeing me actually play the records rather than just hearing it. But then I started to realize that, well, if I'm just playing records and not doing anything, there's not really a performative aspect to it. Nobody's seen me try to mix, or nobody's really there's nothing really much to watch, so to speak. Right. Yeah. So that's when I started realizing that if I'm going to do the live stream stuff and take it a little bit more seriously, that I need to approach it a little bit more like I would approach a DJ set. So, and try to mix, try to have some sort of flow and some sort of concerted selection to how I'm doing the live stream.
Right. That's interesting.
So I'm still tooling around with it. I'm still having fun with it. I'm now considering getting into simulcasting, so not just doing Facebook, but trying to get it out on YouTube and Twitch, and seeing how everything works out.
Oh, cool! That's excellent.
So, Facebook, I am actually kind of surprised. Originally, I was under the impression that Facebook would be kind of limiting in terms of your audience and everything. But a live stream that I did, I think it was last Friday, I started getting the idea that, well, if I do start the live stream, only my friends can see it. However, if someone that is friends with me shares the live stream, that person's friends then can also see the live stream,
right?
Even if they're not friends with me.
Sure.
And a friend of mine, I guess he was kind of bored at home with all the different groups that he moderated across Facebook. He started sharing the live stream to all those different groups. And at one point, with unbeknownst to me, there were 20 people watching the live stream at one point. And I just glanced over. I'm shooting everything on my phone. I looked over it and I saw the count was like 20 people at once, and I was legitimately shocked. And at that point, I was like, okay, now I have to take it into more of like a DJ set rather than just me playing records.
Right.
So I'm always toying around with ideas. How can I improve this? How can I make things more interesting? One thing that I've really, really wanted to do is get better lighting for this room. I really don't like the fluorescent light in here. It's just too bright and too sterile.
So what would you do? What, to replace all of that, or to add lights as a result?
To add lights and dim the fluorescent light, not make it the main lighting source in the room.
Right.
Especially for when I do live streams. But it's just it's another one of those ideas that I'm always constantly playing around with and always constantly thinking of tweaking.
Interesting.
So, would you ever get into?
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Would you ever get into the idea of live streaming?
I don't know. It's not something that I don't know. I think every now and then the idea of like wondering what it would be like to play to a crowd, you know, that kind of pops in my head. But you know, you can't, like, I don't know. I've never sort of explored it. I don't think it's something I'll ever do. But then the live streaming thing, I don't know. It's just more fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't. I don't know.
No, if you honestly, I mean, if you have no desire to do it, it's not really worth doing. In the first place.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, I would be doing it for almost the sake of doing it, but it's not. I don't know. I think nothing I've done, I've ever been on camera. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So that's why I'm always like immersed into like your YouTube album reviews. Again, you seem incredibly comfortable and very, very confident when you're in front of a camera. And again, being on display in that way as well, for me, just I'd probably just say hi and just pass out.
Hey, you never know until you try it.
Well, yeah.
So I think I had one more question I wanted to ask you.
Go, yeah.
Where did the name come about? I know we're already like an hour into this conversation, and I should have asked you this way earlier, but how did you come to the name Blue and Green?
It was the name of the radio show that I had, the Blue and Green Sessions, which was initially picked. The only thing I can remember it was off of Miles Davis's Blue and Green from Blue and Green, but from Kind of Blue. I mean, sorry. It was named after that. But I feel like there was a deeper connection to it. I can't remember why, but it just became the name of the show, and I had that name of the show, and a very cool, which I still have, knocked up like an intro theme to it, and you know, I retained that in of itself like 15 years, and when I started, the website existed before the radio station, and I called the website the Blue and Green Blog because it was supposed to be a blog to accompany the show, and through the blog I was reviewing albums and interviewing like email Q&As with artists. And then the idea of the station came up, and I was like, well, where would I do it? And I'm like, well, I have the website. So then I got the domain name Blue and Green Radio. So that was basically the evolution. And if none of that existed, it probably wouldn't have been called Blue and Green Radio. I don't know what it would have been called, but it probably would be called something else.
That was going to be my next question then.
Right. Yeah, it probably wouldn't be called that if there was no connection to it before. But it was just because one thing kept clicking with the other thing, just maintaining the brand kind of became sort of what seemed like the ideal thing to do, because in essence Blue and Green and Me has been a thing for, again, nearly 15 years, I think. So yeah, just sort of continuing it just seemed to make sense.
Okay. So you had been writing reviews before or concurrently with the radio stuff that you had been doing?
Yes. Yeah. So so I think initially when I started radio, I don't know. I just liked the expression of it. So reviews, I say reviews, they're not really like reviews in terms of, anytime I've ever written a review, it has always been me saying, this is something I think is great, and I think that you would think is great too. Do you know what I mean? I've never critiqued music in any way to say, oh, this person's missed the mark and they've not achieved. I've never done that, and never will. I can be personally disappointed if I buy an album from an artist and like I say, oh gosh, this is not what I wanted. But I would never put that on paper or on online and share like a negative thought I had about someone's art or their process. It's not for me to. I have no desire to no. I don't think anyone's opinion outweighs another person's opinion. So if I hate something and you love something, like the new Beck album, which I liked, you didn't. No one person's opinion outweighs another.
I absolutely don't hate it. I just it's one of those things that's not for me.
Yes, exactly. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like the idea of, if I say this is great and you said no, it isn't. Well, where's the conversation? Like, no one's right, no one's wrong. Do you know what I mean? I just think the subjectivity of art is what it is. And I don't know. I have no desire to sort of say someone who has probably worked for months and months, if not longer, to put something out. I would never say, oh, this is awful. I would never put a review out with my name on it and just bash it. So I say reviews. It's just been me saying, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah, no, that's part of the reason why on my YouTube channel I stopped calling them reviews, because I kind of realized at the end of the day, I'm really not being hypercritical, and it just made more sense to call them recommendations, because ultimately, if I'm taking time to talk about any record and edit a video that I shot, I'm ultimately going to edit it or recommend it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that absolutely deserves being shit on. Currently, I can't think of. I currently can't think of anything that's really bugging me.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that if I've heard you say. I feel like, did you say? I seem to remember an older episode of a Raw Select that you put out once. Was there something about Children of Zeus? I know you play them a lot, but was there an album or something that they put out once that you were like not really feeling that one as much?
That was I think in terms of negative reviews that I have uploaded to my channel, which I do have a couple of them. That was one that came across as exceedingly negative, where my tone was just kind of like, it's okay. That album really still doesn't agree with me all that much. The first quarter of it is great. The last quarter of it is great, except for that last song, where they deviate into really bad UK house. Like the most generic of generic UK house. It's really, really bad. And then there's like, shortly after that first quarter of it, I really become disinterested in that record. It just doesn't do anything for me. And it's one of those things that's really hard to put into words. I couldn't tell you exactly why it doesn't do anything for me. It just, every time I start listening to that record and I remember, I actually quite like a lot of these early tracks. And then I'll get into some of the songs, like I think Kintsugi is one of the tracks on there. And I was like, wow, this is really not that interesting.
Mm.
And I think a lot of it is Children of Zeus's approach to lyricism is very straightforward and very on the nose with a lot of the things that they talk about.
Right.
So when they start going a little bit out of their depth, it really just comes off as being superficially deep. Specifically, that track Kintsugi, where it plays with the metaphor of are you familiar with that type of Japanese pottery?
No, not at all.
So it's a type of pottery where a piece of or a vase or a bowl or something that is broken can be put back together using like a gold paste, and it sort of becomes a new object as a result of that.
Okay.
That is the metaphor that they use for the song. And it is a one-note metaphor that they stretch for 3 minutes. And on top of that, nothing is left to the imagination, because at the end of the song, they spell out what the metaphor is. That is bad writing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like D'Angelo's Brown Sugar, obviously, you could listen to Brown Sugar, not know it's actually a song about drugs.
Yes.
You know, so but he doesn't say at the end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's completely, yeah.
Now that you just said that, I think you just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Oh, did you not know it was about drugs?
No, I didn't. I didn't even notice.
Oh, really?
I didn't even notice that. I mean,
yes,
I being D'Angelo, my first thought was, girls, but
no, it isn't. It's I can't, I'm not too into the drug scene, so I can't remember the specific drug. I don't know if it's a marijuana one. It might be marijuana that he's talking about. But yeah, absolutely. Listen to the song again. Everything, like particularly the line where he says, I hope my always down for a menage a trois, but I hope my friends don't mind. I'm going to hit it solo. He's talking about passing the joint around, basically.
Yeah, no. I mean, once you told me what the overarching message of the song was, I immediately made that connection. Damn, that is good writing. But I mean,
exactly.
that's
great writing.
That is great contrast into that Children of Zeus song.
Yeah,
that song actually. I am by no means a poetry or writing critic. I have some creative faculties about it, about myself, and that was one of the songs where I almost ripped my headphones out of my ears, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's dumb. That's really bad writing." There's only been a handful of instances in between all forms of media where I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" and that was one of those instances.
I can't think of a song where I've just thought, "Oh my gosh, what are you saying?"
Well, that's the funny thing. It so rarely comes up.
Yeah.
But this was just one instance where, as someone who usually doesn't pay that much attention to lyrics, that was the most recent instance where I was just like, okay, take what you've written, look at it, review it, and think, how can I improve this?
Yeah.
Rather than just putting out the first idea that you farted out. And now I'm just becoming increasingly mean just for the fun of it.
Don't worry, you can edit this out. You'll edit this out.
No, I won't. I'm going to leave this totally in. But speaking of editing things out, I think we were kind of coming towards the end of the conversation. I want to say thank you very much for all your time. Definitely want to do this again.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very kind. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
I'd love to do another conversation. We can pick any topic that we could probably expand on for hours on end. We talk about
and I'd love to get you back on Blue and Green podcast as well. There's a few things that you've been doing that I've wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, and if I've never extended it, I always got to say thank you so much for making me a part of the Blue and Green family. I really appreciate it. And I love doing the podcast stuff with you. It's always a lot.
That's very kind.
I love the conversations that we have.
That's very kind, man. Thanks so much. Yeah, I really enjoy it as well. You're definitely someone who I look forward to kind of hanging out with. It's very easy. Like right now, we've hit nearly 2 hours, and I've had a blast. So I always enjoy hanging out with you.
All right,
it's cool.
Is there anything else you want to add before we finish things off?
Well, it would be rude of me not to say, would love you to check out Blue and Green Radio. You can find us at www.blueandgreenradio.com, where you can hear fantastic shows like Sean So Fire and Raw Select, as well as a whole host of others that I'd love to rattle off now, but I don't want to leave off anyone. So it's a fantastic array of talent. It really, really is, and they deserve your time and attention. So thanks very much, gang.
All right.
Thank you, Sean, for having me, man.
Oh, no, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. Definitely make sure that you go over and check out Blue and Green Radio. You can find him at blueandgreenradio.com, as well as on SoundCloud. You're on Mixcloud as well, correct?
Yeah, I don't maintain it as much, but I am on Mixcloud. Yeah, it's Blue and Green Radio. Yeah, Blue and Green Radio as well. But I'm not great on that one. But yes, we're there. We've got great shows on there, actually.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for us today, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again fairly soon. I'd definitely like if you're up for it, and if you're
100%, anytime, absolutely. I don't tend to have a lot on at midnight. Yeah, I don't tend to have a lot of. I tend to have a lot of time free around midnight, so there's not a lot going on. So yeah, I'm free most nights.
Okay. All right. All right,
cheers,
I want to say thanks again, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome, dude. Thank you.
All right, take it easy.